Hello nation, how are you this afternoon slash evening slash whenever the hell you're watching this? What's up? We're here to talk about a band that I've talked about before, but I'm going to do it again. The reason why I sometimes take on bands or artists or things like that it seems as though I'm not going to like or anything like that is because I like to give everything its fair shot. And I know that there's something that has brought up some controversy in a couple of past videos, and I have a feeling it may do so again in this one. But I wanted to make it clear to everybody that the reason why I listen to things and make reviews are not because they are big name releases that absolutely demand that I tear them apart. No, I really like to give everything its fair shot, and a great example of that was whenever I did House of Golden Bones by Stone Sour last year. I went into that review with my mind very, very open, and as a result, I was rewarded with the fact that that two-album series, Part 1 and Part 2, Part 1 released last fall and Part 2 this spring, was really just a great experience. Not to mention, it really showed the world that Stone Sour was able to really even defeat the harshest of its critics, so to speak. Although I've never directly talked about Stone Sour. So let's get on to this. We're going to be talking today about Five Finger Death Punch's Wrong Side of Heaven and the Righteous Side of Hell. Now, for those of you who have been long-time watchers of my videos, you know that I reviewed American Capitalist a couple of years ago, and that didn't exactly go very well. And, well, I'm giving this band another shot principally because I keep hearing good things about it. I keep hearing, people say that they really like this stuff, and I like to talk about what you guys like every so often and give my opinion, give my take. So this is an album that is, firstly, it's coming out on Tuesday, July the 30th. So this is something that is upcoming, and it is a very, very high demand release, principally because this is a band that has done very, very well for itself ever since they really took control a couple of albums ago. Bad Company as a cover, their cover song of Bad Company is really one thing that really propelled them to a lot of success, at least around where my area is. That's the song that everybody came in really demanding whenever this band first started to get hot, and they have followed suit ever since. Now, with this album right here, we have another cover that we're going to discuss here in just a moment. We also have a couple of guests on this album, such as Max Cavalera of Soulfly and Sepultura. We have Jamie Josta from Hatebreed. We have Tech9, who is a rapper, Yo-Yo. And we have Maria Brink also as a guest on this album as well. So there's a lot of guests on here, and I said that there was another cover. And that cover is Mama Said Knock You Out, which is an LL Cool J song. So they're doing a rap song, but they are doing it in a modern rock, modern metal, whatever you want to call it, form. And I'm going to actually start there because I want to get this out of the way. This was a song that was done by LL Cool J, made very, very famous by LL Cool J. Really scared some parents, scared some people whenever it came out, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about the backstory about this song? I like Tech9 on this song. I really don't like Five Finger Death Punch on it all that much. I really think that this is a song that needs to be done in the full-fledged rap style. I don't think this is something that really needs to be sung rap or whatever you want to call it these days. I really enjoy Tech9's verse on here. He does the second verse and helps out a little bit with the chorus. It just makes me think of Body Count giving him a call, giving Five Finger Death Punch a call and saying, just don't do that. So we got that out of the way. I'm not a huge fan of this cover. It was nice to hear it in a different light. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I really prefer the original over this. But that's, hey, whatever. That's all opinion, and that's fine by me. Now, whenever we get to the originals on this record, I do have a couple of principal annoyances, but I also have a couple of principal praises. So it's something where I'm kind of meeting everybody in the middle here and meeting myself in the middle, and there's just a lot of middle going on. So I don't know how to feel about all this middle going on. But the one thing that I have to say about this is that Five Finger Death Punch, you are a band that really does not really need the clever disguises of production parlor tricks in order to really get your point across. It's not going to make you a better band. It's something where you're just kind of following a generalized music trend that is just kind of annoying. It's something that you don't really need. You don't need these little, random, chop, cuts that of your lines, things like that. It just makes me think that you're trying to dive into this foray of kind of an electronic sound, something that's very heavily sampled in order to really, produce itself, and I really just don't like that, but that's just a personal thing. I'm not going to hold that against you, principally because I only heard it, I think, once, and that's really a small thing to gripe about. I heard a breakdown here and there, and breakdowns are something that's also very, very hot, very mainstream. So, I guess my principal point here is Five Finger Death Punch. I've heard your songwriting enough to know that these are things that you don't need to resort to in order to really deliver a solid album, to really deliver a solid song. In order to really be the band that you are today. These are not things that you need. You're doing just a fantastic job, of restoring people's faith in modern hard rock with your songwriting and everything like that. Now, that said, your songwriting is something where I'm very positive on. Your guitar work is very good. I mean, this is something that, it does air off to a lot of people as a little bit generic, a little bit simplistic, but you have to understand, people who think this, that this isn't something that's necessarily target marketed towards somebody who loves blistering technical death metal. This is not necessarily marketed towards somebody who enjoys, black metal or progressive rock or things like that. This is something that's really geared towards the hard rock generations, old and new. This is something that is really pushed more towards them, with a little bit of a cautionary tale toward the metal side of things. Now, with that said, whenever you look at this as a hard rock album, whenever you take a look at this for what it truly is, you have to understand that there are some exemplary features here. Some things that are very, very good, and I do really like the construction. Some people will disapprove of the bare bones idea of it. I think that for what they are doing, it's something that can work, and it has worked very well for them. Secondly, the guitar work is something that is certainly been Five Finger Death Punch's strength. They do have a very, very talented guitar core, and their solos always really have adequate placement, and they're not necessarily something that's going to absolutely blow you away. However, it is something where there is enough respect involved, not to mention it's something that enhances the song just enough that it builds it to a certain crest point that you really want on a song like that. I remember that a lot of times during the nu metal craze of the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a lot of songs that went without any sort of soloing or any sort of, crest point. So you really got to this thing where, you got to the second chorus or something like that, and maybe they just said some powerful statement, and then they just went right back into that chorus. And it just kind of left me as a music fan, and I think this was true of a lot of people, kind of feeling a little bit empty. You didn't have that high point that really defines a song. And some people will argue that that's not required in every song, and I agree, because you need a little bit, it can't be formulaic also, but there are a lot of singles, a lot of songs that really demanded that crescendo point, that crest point, something that really just kept you amped up going in to the final portion of the song. Five Finger Death Punch is able to make that crest point, that crescendo point happen, and do so very well. Now we're going to get to the parts that I'm not thrilled about, and these may outweigh, actually, the first ones, because these are pretty major. The first thing that I have to say is that, lyrically, this is an album that suffers a lot. There are a couple of great, great moments, such as Wrong Side of Heaven, where the lyrics are not something that is really a problem. They are very well thought up, they are creative, they tell a story, they do tell a tale, and it's done and performed very well. However, more often than not, this is something where it is extremely, extremely lackluster, very, very generic, rife with obscenities that are pretty much unnecessary in a lot of these positions. It's almost like they're there just to be there or to enhance the meaning, when in reality it just really dumbs down your lyrical vocabulary. Burn MF. I don't know, Five Finger Death Punch, if you guys have heard of the band Dope, but they have done this idea before on a song called Die MF Die. Die motherfucker, die motherfucker, die. Burn motherfucker, burn. It's very, very close, and it's extremely similar, and since I have heard that before, immediately that song just got flushed right down the toilet for me. Now, Diary of a Dead Man, Diary of a Madman, really, I just, wow. Now, let's get to the people who are on here. Let's get to Maria Brink, who is kind of, I noticed her on the song. It's okay, but it's blah. Of course, we have Rob Halford on the opening track, and that is pretty well done. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more out of Rob, but for his place on the song, considering it's not his song, it works out. Tech Nine, like I said, on the cover, I really enjoyed hearing him. Max is definitely another highlight, and Jamie Josta I can really do without, but that's just me. It does create a little bit of a two-way street here as far as the vocals are concerned, but in reality, whenever you're doing a little bit of this this semi-growling singing, and he's kind of doing his typical, hey, Bree, Jamie, Joss the thing. Differentiation is, you can tell the difference, but really, tonally, there's not that much separation, and that's kind of the point here. So, we're looking lyrically at a large problem, and, you know, as far as songwriting is concerned, while I have just praised it, it's something that does become tiresome. I noticed that whenever I started this album, I started very amped up, but by the time I reached the conclusion point of this album, I was very, you know, I wasn't restless, instead I was sleepy. It was something that was kind of just becoming too much of the same thing over and over again, kind of rehashed with only periodic differentiation throughout the course that just, it just kind of tired on me a little bit. The whole entire thing just tired on me. So this is an album that definitely feels bogged down by itself, which is not a good thing considering this is an album that barely crests the 50-minute mark. Now, I know that there are deluxe editions and all this other stuff that do give you and deliver you more music, but after hearing all this, I don't think I would want that. Overall, this is an album that is kind of puzzling to me. I know that American Capitalist I didn't exactly give very stellar remarks to, and it seems as though I'm treading down that same path once again with this album here. I would probably have to give it a 5.5 to a 6. This is an album that seems like it becomes way too self-conscious of itself. There seems to be a lot of, you know, unnecessary implementation in the lyrics of just excessive swearing, which really limits your lyrical palette, and it does wear on a while. After a while, it's something that, yeah, I understand. It's supposed to be energetic. It's supposed to really appeal to those bros that just sometimes come home and just want to fuck shit up because their life sucks that bad. And I also know that I swear a good bit myself, but at the same time, I also try to be a little bit more, you know, diverse in my speaking. I tend to try to elaborate my vocabulary and enhance it every so often, and that's not just because I want to look like I'm some sort of above-the-law type of gentleman. No, instead it's just something that I find to be important. But overall, this is an album that, if you are a fan of hard rock, if you are a fan of this style of music, if you like bands such as Shinedown and even Slipknot, you're really going to enjoy this album. You're going to really take a lot from this, and you're going to probably list it among some of your favorites from the year. However, if this is something that isn't normally your cup of tea, it's not going to be swayed by this album. You're not going to immediately become a fan of this style of hard rock, this modern metal idea, if you want to call it that. I call it more modern hard rock. This is not something that's going to really sway you or change your mind. The same band that did such a very, very talented and exquisite version of Bad Company is not really doing that much anymore. Sure, they still have the talented guitar core, and sure, they still make music that does sound a cut heavier than a lot of the other stuff that you hear on the radio, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's great material. This is an album that I would call just about average, and that's probably the nicest that I could be with it. But hey, everybody's opinion is different. I want you guys to tell me in the comments what you guys think about this album. And let me know, is this your favorite Five Finger Death Punch album, or is one from the past actually one that far surpasses it? Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.